So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Photo Conversations, where we have conversations about photography, film, and so much more about life. Well, I haven't produced any video in a while, and the social media um, go-getters or the social media diehards usually tell me that you need to be consistent, you need to produce more content, you need to be you need to be out there. And yeah, I definitely agree with them. You need to be consistent. I mean, it's a virtue that every creative should have. But for me, most of my content is actually based on inspiration. Most of my content is based on how I feel, and that makes it a lot harder for me to produce content when I'm not inspired or when I have no motive to produce that specific content. So today, when you see me here, just know there's something that has pushed me to produce this video. I'll give you a short story as a preamble to this conversation or to this video. A couple of weeks ago, I was driving from my workplace, my studio, going to town to run some errands. It was a very hot afternoon, and as I was driving up from Fanero Church, where Fanero Church is at Lugogo near, they call it Naguru Hospital. As I was driving up to the Lugogo bypass at the traffic lights, I found some traffic jams, so cars stopped for a moment because the lights were red. So we stopped for about 5 minutes. And in the 5 minutes of stopping, I fell asleep on the wheel. The good thing is that I had stopped and I had put my foot on the brake pedal. And I'm not sure whether I pulled the handbrake or not, but I usually pull the handbrake whenever I stop, like in traffic. So I was at a standstill, but because of exhaustion, because of the heat and everything, I blacked out for about 5 minutes. And what woke me up was the hooting from the cars that were behind me, And as they were hooting, it feels like I was in a dream where there was sound playing in my ears. And of course, I woke up, I panicked, and eventually I drove away embarrassed because of keeping people waiting and people trying to find what's happening, what's wrong. As I was driving after that embarrassment, I was thinking, what did I do to myself, And I realized that it didn't come out of a blue. It came because I was tired. It became because I had burnt out, literally. And today I just want to talk about burnout and exhaustion among creatives, filmmakers, photographers, and literally any other profession. It doesn't have to be multimedia. You could be a doctor, you could be an engineer, but we all at some point in life or at some point in our careers get burned out. And when we get we get into being burnt out, those are some of the signs. You literally have sleep date and you just want to sleep at any opportunity, and unfortunately you could fall asleep on the wheel. It shows up in many ways. Sometimes it's failure to sleep. There are moments when you're just exhausted that you can't even get an ounce of sleep. As I was driving away, it occurred to me that my health, my mental health, is actually more important than any kind of work I was doing. And there's a saying that there's a common statement that when you are sick, you only have one problem, and that problem is the illness that you have. Money won't make sense. There's no possession on this earth that will make sense when you're ill, when your body is malfunctioning, when your mental health has deteriorated. there's nothing that is more important than your own health. And the main reason for the burnout in creatives today is mainly the magnitude of the work, the quantity of work that you're churning out, the sleepless nights, editing videos, the long field days. You head out at 6 into the field and come back at 6, and then you have to make a rough cut, and then you have to write a report, and you have to do all these things. So work is something that I treasure, is something that we should treasure as creatives, because we are privileged to be in an economy where we are valued because we are paid to do the work that we do. We are privileged to have work come in on a daily basis. Yes, we need to acknowledge and be thankful, be grateful for the work that we have. But then it is another thing when the work that we have comes at the cost of our own mental health, comes at the cost of our own physical health. I remember there's a time I was going to film upcountry, and that was Kisoro. And I happened to be in a hardtop. We all know the Land Cruiser hardtop. I have a personal grudge with those cars, so let's not get into the cars, but it's not a comfortable car, especially when you're sitting in the back. But as we were driving down the hills of Kisoro, my back took the beating. My back was literally, just giving way because of the discomfort. By the time we came back from the experience, I had a very, very bad back that, could have cost me much more than the money that I was being paid to film the project that we were filming at the time. It's not only the mental health, it's also the physical health that most photographers and filmmakers go through, and to them it's normal. It's, like a hazard at work, something that is just a consequence of doing your day-to-day occupational hazard. That's the right word. We look at it as occupational hazard. It's part of the work we do. But unfortunately, when you lose your health, you lose everything else. And one of the reasons why many creatives are getting into a state of burnout is partly because of the emergence of social media. Social media is a great thing, but now it has become a machine that demands content like instantaneously, and the more instantaneous your content is, the better, because you're now looked at as someone that is consistent and someone that is pushing all the way. And it's not only at a personal level, but even businesses and organizations and commercial entities are also subscribing to the same philosophy of shoot today and give me that work the same day, or give me that work in just a few hours. So as the algorithm demands content, the pushback of that demand is it gets to the people that produce the content, and those are the photographers and the filmmakers, and eventually it evolves into the burnout that you see that photographers and filmmakers have. And the problem is that it is becoming a standard that when you shoot something today, you need to produce it tomorrow. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter whether you have, your mind is you're in the right state of mind to produce this kind of work. So literally, it disregards anything else apart from the algorithm. So organizations are buying that as a new KPI for literally rating the performance of a photographer or a filmmaker. And quite often I get clients come in and they give you a huge chunk of work but expect you to produce that chunk of work in the shortest time possible. You'll get a client ask for maybe a video, and then ask you to make 4 short videos for for social media, and they tell you we want them tomorrow, and you're thinking, where do I get this mental capacity, this brain power to produce these things with precision, and also have them look different, color grade them, give them like a nice edit, give them some sort of creativity. So I think there's a huge disconnect between what is possible and for a creative and what the client wants. So I feel that there's that. It's becoming to me, it's becoming the norm that being busy, doing a lot of work is probably what equates to being successful in the creative industry. Something I totally disagree with. And the other thing is that creativity, however scientific it might be, creativity is a little bit abstract and takes time, because there's no right way to measure creativity. There's no right way to evoke creativity. I'll give you an example. Some of the creatives, some of the artists, some of the filmmakers that you see around today, editors, have cycles of creativity. There are moments when your creativity is at peak. There are moments when your creativity is down. There are energy cycles. There are moments when you're full of energy and you can, literally push anything that's on your desk. But there are also moments when you literally do not want to look at your screen. But regardless of all this, the client wants work. My simple advice to creatives is that before the reputation, before the money, before the status, before anything else, you need to guard your mental and your physical health. We need the money, but you can't make the money without the good health. For me, it took me first falling asleep on the steering wheel and endangering my own life to realize that there's no work that is so important that you neglect your own health. And we might look at health as something very broad, but I'm saying exhaustion. I'm saying burnout. I mean, even your emotional health. How do you feel about, staying up all night just because the client said they want that work tomorrow? And I'm not saying that don't deliver the client's work. I'm only saying that as a creative, give clients more realistic timeline to produce your work, considering all your energy cycles, considering how you feel, your emotional cycles, but also considering your physical abilities. We are not all endowed in the same way physically and mentally. You might be able to concentrate for 2 hours. Probably my threshold is 1 hour. So when you are working with a client, do not overhype them. Do not give them unrealistic expectations. And the problem that I've seen over time is that as you grow older, your energy drops. I remember when I was a young photographer, before I left the youth bracket. I remember when I was a young photographer, I could literally sprint, carry heavier stuff, do the heavy lifting of filming. But as I grow older, I realize that my energy is getting a little bit lower. I also realize that my endurance is dwindling in one way or the other. So the issue is usually that the young photographers that are energetic, the young videographers, the young editors that can spend sleepless nights, they are creating this impression for the clientele that, look, we can produce this in one day. What the other guy can do in 1 week, I can do in one day, regardless of the quality, regardless of all these other things, of the creativity. And the problem is that this is becoming a norm. When you work with a client, they'll say, I worked with so and he could deliver it in one day. So must you deliver the same thing in one day? And I totally agree, but I think we are different. We are different levels of energy. We are different ages. Look at the age of the person that you're working with. Look at their temperament. Look at all these other things. Maybe that photographer has nothing else to do apart from that. But people have other things to do as well. So I think, one, creatives should stop giving clients unrealistic expectations and unrealistic timelines and, goals and stuff like that. And two, creatives should start taking their mental health and physical health more seriously. And three, creatives need to create, that space for themselves where they can find some sort of, a space where they can regenerate, where they can rejuvenate their creative energy, rejuvenate their physical energy, but also creatives should be able to feed well, exercise, and just basically have an all-round healthy relationship with their work. So that is sort of like my rant for today. But I think also for clients, when you notice that somebody is giving you an unrealistic deadline, out of experience, you should be able to, to see that, to notice that, and kind of sort of make it a lot easier for them by either lengthening the time or giving them more leeway to be able to produce a better product. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense when you get a good product, but then you have the producer of the product in a sorry state mentally and physically. So I think it's a two-way thing. Both the creative and the client should have consideration for each other when it comes for. And please do not misquote me. Do not take this out of context. I'm not saying people shouldn't deliver, but people should deliver within the realistic timelines that put their health first before anything else. So thank you so much for watching this YouTube video, and stay healthy, stay safe, keep energized, and keep creative. Because at the end of the day, we need the content, but we also need the creative. We need the photographers. We need everybody on, everybody on board to stay alive. Thank you so much, and catch you on the next one. Cheers.